Hey, what's up everybody? On today's video, we're going to give you 10 travel tips if you ever go to the country of Cuba. One of the strangest travel destinations you can go to simply because it's a weird country with strange laws. And on this video, we're going to give you some tips and advice in case you go there that you don't make a mistake. While most countries in Latin America are known for being a dangerous place to travel, Cuba is all around considered a safe travel destination. Your biggest concern is going to be the strange laws that you're going to have to follow when you visit this beautiful island in the Caribbean. Tourists going to Cuba are a huge cash cow for the Cuban government, and any citizen of Cuba who puts their hands on or even bothers a tourist can get into a world of trouble, perhaps never being seen from or heard from again. So it makes it a safe place for you as a tourist, but there's still so much more that you need to know, and that's what we're going to explore on this list. Number 1, do not buy beef or any product from beef while you are on the island. It has been illegal to consume, buy, or trade in beef in Cuba for many years, and the sanctions for people who violate this law are very severe. There are places where you can buy it from the government. However, it is strongly advised that you do not buy it directly from the government, since many times, let's say you're buying a hamburger, the workers are going to get rid of the real hamburger meat and replace it with something of less quality, which could be just about anything. Not only will this food usually make you very sick, but it is also almost always not beef. Being a tourist will not spare you from this situation, since only tourists will be dumb enough to even consider trying to buy beef on an island where it's forbidden for the people to have it, but legal for the tourists somehow. It's definitely something you should avoid. Many times, every single pound or ounce has to be accounted for, so if they have a receipt that they sold this to you, they can pretty much make the real meat disappear, and whatever you paid for, that's your own problem. Number 2 is do not buy artwork. It may be tempting to buy a picture on the side of the road or of an old Chevy, some type of wood carving or painting. You should be advised that this is a huge tourist trap and it will bring you many consequences, and it is best not even to look at vendors who are pushing art type products towards tourists. For one, Cuba has a law that makes it illegal to remove any type of patrimonio nacional, which is national patrimony. And what this means is that art, wood, or anything that is endemic to Cuba cannot be removed from the island unless the government stamps it for you. And there's a massive fee to do that. You can at the airport have your luggage checked, and believe me, they will check your luggage when you leave Cuba, and anything that quote unquote belongs to the government, which is art, wood, or anything really from the island of Cuba, they will have to stamp it for you. You may actually end up paying more for the artwork to remove it from the island than what the artwork actually cost. Many times, the street peddlers that are pushing this artwork are not going to disconnect from you. The moment you look at their artwork or mention that it looks good, you're pretty much obligated to buy it, and then you're going to be stuck with something that's going to be quite impossible to actually take off the island. Many times, immediately after you buy the artwork, they're going to give you another piece of artwork that looks exactly like the one that was on display, but it is of much lesser quality. And talking about quality, the paints and canvases that this artwork is on is absolutely the biggest garbage materials you'll find anywhere in the entire world, since it's almost impossible to get your hands on anything in Cuba that is an authentic product, like paint or a canvas, or even painting materials. You will find that the paints used to make these pictures are actually composited of other types of components that are not really paint, and they're eventually going to fade, crack, and who knows what the crap. So my advice to you is to not even look at these things. Number three is bring all of your personal hygiene. Finding items like soap or toothpaste in the island of Cuba can be complicated and time consuming. You can expect a difficult time finding personal hygiene items, and you should definitely just bring everything you're going to need that's personal hygiene. If you forget to buy soap or, let's say, toothpaste before you embark on your trip, you'll find that the items you're going to find in Cuba are going to be not only of very bad quality, but also extraordinarily expensive. So if you're planning a trip to the beach, you might want to bring your own suntan lotion and so on. Plan accordingly so that you bring with you just about all the things you're actually going to need. Number four, bring something from your country. If you're from Alabama, you might want to grab a moon pie. If you're from Oklahoma, bring some Cheetos. Most people are going to think about bringing gifts like clothing, souvenirs. If you really want to impress the people of Cuba, one of the greatest things you can do is bring something that is food related, that is pre-packaged, like Cheetos, potato chips, whatever it is that's endemic to wherever you're from. The people of Cuba are going to find this incredibly awesome because they're going to get to experience something from another part of the world. So consider packing something that's food related that you would make at home. If there's something that you make and you can pack absolutely all the ingredients and bring them with you so that you can cook a meal with a Cuban family and be able to integrate that into the meal, they're going to experience something they've never been able to experience before because everything in Cuba is mostly organic and from the island. Keep in mind that you can travel anywhere you want in the world, but the people of Cuba are not allowed to travel anywhere. So if you like honey buns, grab like 5 or 6 of them and hand them to people over there that you're dealing with, and they'll be able to appreciate your culture in a way that they'll actually like. Number five, you are not allowed to record video or take photos of anything that is military or police. So if you're recording a video and a police officer starts to walk towards you, it would be highly advisable to definitely not record them. The police in Cuba is not like the police here where you can make a YouTube video about how they pulled you over. You're going to end up getting the beating of a lifetime. In fact, I wouldn't even want them to know that you have recording equipment with you. So while you're definitely allowed to take pictures and do stuff, make sure that at no point you take any photos of anything, a person, building, or vehicle that belongs to the government. Number six, Cuba is not Jamaica. The laws are very strict. If you have an addiction to anything, you're not going to be able to get your hands on it in Cuba. And if you bring it to Cuba with you and you are caught with it, please believe that they will not spare you some of the heaviest punishments you'll find anywhere on earth for things like leafy products. So if you have an addiction of any form and you're not able to be without it, there's no medical cards, there's no exemptions, there's no bribing somebody. If you are caught in Cuba with any of that type of stuff, you're going to have a nightmare of a lifetime, and there's no way out of it. You'll hear this travel warning for a lot of countries, but in the case of Cuba, I'm not kidding. Look up the laws and the fines and the punishments. You're going to wish you had never done this. Number seven, if you're stepping outside of the touristy areas and into the real Cuba, you need to have a local tour guide, somebody who's actually from there, since many of the things you're about to do in Cuba are from the black market, and they're definitely not going to do something illegal or quote unquote not technically the way you're supposed to do it with somebody who's from another country. So whether you're trading money, getting fuel, or even using communication like internet or cell phone, you're going to need a local person to kind of middleman just about every single transaction you're going to do, unless you're buying like a soda or food directly from a government establishment. Number eight, if something is labeled not for tourists, now this could be food, this could be a hotel, or just about anything, even transportation. If for some reason the government labels it as not for tourists, only for locals, please believe you're going to find another alternative. You may be tempted to take for locals transportation or for local services or hotel accommodations. Don't do it. Whatever you're going to need in Cuba, may it be transportation or accommodations, you go to things that are specifically for people like you that are from another country, because the things that are for Cubans really, really suck. And it's not even like you can save money on some of these things. Some of these things are going to be actually dangerous or hazardous to you. In the case of one traveler who stayed at a hotel that was for locals only, using an ID of a local person that looked identical to the tourists because they were family and they were related, the hotel ended up being something like a prison. Your idea of a hotel may be that they're there to serve you until your checkout. Their idea of a hotel may be you're not leaving this building that doesn't even have running water until checkout because you're pretty much here. And it's like, yeah, don't ever do anything you're not supposed to in Cuba that's not for tourists. Like, stick to the store. It's not like you're saving money. There's no cost cutting. There's no clever, oh, I'm going to pretend like that doesn't work. And if you do, you're not going to feel like a human. You're going to feel like a dog that's being babysitted by somebody who doesn't care about dogs. Number 9, if you are renting a vehicle from the government, you're going to have to inspect the vehicle before you get it, because the tires and condition of the vehicle could be so bad that you're almost guaranteed to have a breakdown or a tire explode. Anything from tires to oil to anything like a screw in a vehicle could be stolen by the workers or the people that are renting the vehicle and be used for somebody who has a private vehicle. Again, it's an island where you can't get your hands on anything, so the car's engine oil, a tire, anything could be stolen, and then you as the rented person, you're the one who's going to end up with a faulty equipment. Plan for your vehicle that's rented from the government or even from a private party to have several mechanical issues. Everybody that's gone to Cuba that I've known has had a blown out tire or something malfunction on the vehicle, whether they're renting it from the government or they're using a local who has their own vehicle. Vehicle breakdowns are a completely normal thing when renting vehicles in Cuba. Just plan for it. Number 10 is very simple. See the real Cuba. I hate when I see these YouTubers that go to Cuba and they spend their entire time in the part of Havana that's for tourists. You're not seeing the real Cuba. You're seeing what the government wants you to see. Get out there to places that you're not supposed to be at as a tourist. Go out there and see a small town in the middle of nowhere. You wouldn't believe how many people I've met who've told me they've been to Cuba and they're referring to Havana or a port side place that's only for tourists or a resort where you just barely hop off the cruise. That's not Cuba. Look, that's like if I want to stay at a resort, I can go to West Palm Beach or Miami and stay at a resort. A resort in Jamaica, in Miami, in the Bahamas, it's all the same exact thing. So if you tell me you went to Cuba and you just went to those places, you didn't see Cuba, you didn't experience Cuba. To go to Cuba, go to Camagüey, go to like one of those smaller cities that's like not a tourist destination. Go to a place that's just not really where tourists normally go to. Get to see what it's really like to be a Cuban. Spend a week in the countryside where there's no phone signal, there's no electricity, there's nothing. Just tell the family, hey, I'm going to buy whatever livestock we eat. Probably be very difficult to do it in the city because in the city there's too many nosy neighbors. But once you get like out to the middle of nowhere, you could probably find like a random family that lives in a place that's very remote and be like, hey, let's pretend that we're family or something. Because in Cuba, like if you're a tourist and you like land somewhere like in a city, there'd be too many nosy people. Like it'd be kind of awkward to do it in a city. But once you get out to the countryside, like a place that's very remote, you could probably stick it out with a family that's actually like not just a random family. You might have to spend like $100 on food every single day just to stay with these people. But like get to experience what it's actually like to live in Cuba and be with those people and like actually see what they eat, see what it's like on the farm, the routine, milking the animals, like get like a real experience of what it's like to live in a place where there's absolutely nothing of the modern world. We recently did a video in an Amish community in Missouri, and we think about the Amish like living off the grid or whatever. Yeah, they can walk to a gas station that has everything, and they can see a brand new, 2022 Camry drive past their house. once a year. But those people that are in Cuba, I mean, they're really living completely disconnected from the rest of the world. So like if you go to Cuba, make sure you do see the real Cuba. Like I got family that was literally living in a real life shanty town, and I stayed there for like a week, and it was just incredible. Like I don't think people in the United States that live in bad places, they don't really understand like I go to like St. Louis and Detroit and all these cities that have a bad reputation in the United States, but they don't really have an idea of what a really bad place is in a poor country. Like after being in Cuba for a week in this neighborhood, the locals had respect for us in that neighborhood because they're like, I can't believe that as a tourist you would actually stay in a place like this. And I just told them, hey, like I would rather give the money to my family than spend it at a hotel, and they really like to hear that. So I actually was able to spend some time in the slums, like a shanty town in the outskirts of Camagüey, and not only that, but I was also able to I actually walked around at night, which is like you're not supposed to do that in Cuba if you're a local, let alone if you're a tourist. But I actually walked around at night through some shanty towns, and there's actually people like with machetes and stuff. They like checked me. They're like, "Yo, you're not supposed to be out here. This is like the real deal." And I was like, "It's okay. Like I just wanted to do it." Like they're like, it's dangerous." I was like, "I know it's dangerous, but I just wanted to do it." And I just got a lot of respect from the locals while spending some time in the shanty town, which I didn't expect that. I just thought they would kind of like almost see me as a victim, an easy target, but they actually looked at me like they respected that I would actually stay there. And it's interesting that my wife is an American. She's from Michigan, and she went with a bunch of Cubans to Cuba. And the Cubans thought that my wife from Michigan was actually better fitted for that lifestyle than we were because it seemed like she didn't complain about anything. She just kind of like adapted better than we did. Where us Cuban Americans, like we get used to the air conditioning, we get used to like every comfort of America, and it seemed like Katie was actually like handling being over there better than we did, even though she was American. So don't ever like assume that because you're from an environment of wealth in your country or opulence in your country that there's still like not humility in you. Like you might mess up, but like you'll know when you messed up. And that's the beautiful thing about traveling to Cuba is that you're gonna have to respect people even though you're a tourist. Like you can totally be the idiot. Like there's like people like especially like Canadians, they go to Cuba all the time and they're known for just being these arrogant piece of craps, but they're not going to experience and see the things that you will. And sadly a lot of Cubans that go back to Cuba feel that because they're a foreigner now that they can treat the locals like crap or they can humiliate them, and that's definitely not what you should do over there. I just never got how you could go to a place where people are starving and feel like you're better than them because you have something that they don't. Like just those material possessions make you a better person. So if you go to Cuba, make sure that you just always stay humble and don't let ever just go there and thinking that you're going to humiliate other people or you're going to take advantage of other people because they need the money that you have. Like that's definitely not the way you should experience Cuba. And sadly, I think 80 or 90% of the people that go to Cuba are going over there in what I would call predator mode, basically. I feel like in my trip to Cuba, I got to experience some of the most incredible things my country had to offer because I was able to gain the respect of the locals. And then those locals showed me a lot of things that most tourists don't get to see.